part 3 of the week 8 learning guide for college algebra. If this is the first time you're seeing my face, hi, my name is Dr. Marissa May. I'm on a mission to help students feel confident in their math classrooms. This video, this learning guide, those are just resources that I use to help students feel comfortable and confident so that they can successfully finish their math class. So, if you've been with me, you know we have been doing 8 weeks of college algebra, and we are kind of coming to the end. This is part 3 of the last week of the learning guides, and we just have one more part after this. And so, if you've missed any of those, I'll link them below. That way, you can come back and watch them and go back through and make sure that you understand and those concepts. Now, if you want a hard copy of the learning guide here, I'll be sure to link it below. That way you can download it and follow right along. This video is going to focus on inequalities. I am going to use a little bit of the Desmos graphing calculators. When I get to that point, I'll definitely link it below. That way you can check it out. Let's jump right in here on problem number 1. I want you to notice in this one that we actually solve inequalities the same way we solve equations. And so we're going to try to get all the x's on one side. In order to do that, I'm going to do the opposite of subtracting x, which is to add x here. Notice that I line it up underneath the 8x. And now we're going to add. So 8x plus x gives me 9x plus 7 is less than 97. Notice that minus x plus x, those cancel each other out. And so now I've successfully moved all of the x's to one side. Now I've got to get everything away from this x. So I'm going to do the opposite of adding 7. The opposite of adding 7 is to subtract 7. And that leaves me with 9x is less than 90. And then I'm going to do the opposite of multiplying by 9. Now, if you've been with me through the previous weeks of this learning guide through college algebra, you know that we did the same techniques when we were getting ready to solve equations. Okay, the only difference is we have that inequality there instead of an equation. Couple of things about inequalities. We actually can graph this. We can actually say, okay, where are the numbers that are less than 10? Well, they're on the left side of 10. So you may, in a previous math class, have shaded this left side. You may also have decided, okay, is there an open or a closed circle at 10? Well, because there's no equal to there, we know it's an open circle. And so we have this open circle. You may, in a previous math class, have written that as an interval. You would look at the shading and say, okay, where does the shading start over here on the left? It starts at negative infinity. Where does the shading end? It ends at 10, and we use a parentheses because the 10 is not included. And so those are a couple of different ways you could see the solution for the inequality here written. Let's take a look at number 2. Now, I put both of these here. They're going to be very similar. One's going to be just a graph. We're going to use Desmos to help us get that graph. And the other's going to be very similar to that. So let's switch over to Desmos. That way you can see it. Again, I'm linking it below in the description so you can use it. Now, if you haven't seen Desmos, it's a fabulous online free graphing calculator, which is why I love it. Remember, I'm trying to help students feel confident in their math class. And this is a great tool that's accessible to everyone. So let's take a look at graphing this x squared plus y squared. Now, friends, what I did to get that exponent is I just put shift 6 and I used the little caret. That puts me in the exponent. Now I've got to use my right arrow to come down out of the exponent so I can do the plus y squared and then equals 49. Now my video is going to be in the way. It always is when I'm graphing. So I'm going to move myself over here. I'm still here. I just want you to be able to see this. And then I'm going to also zoom out just a little bit. Okay. Now, friends, that is a circle, right? And I want you to notice that when I hover over these points, Desmos tells me those endpoints are 0, 7, negative 7, 0, 0, negative 7, and the other one 7, 0. So on my learning guide, I'm simply going to do a sketch, okay? It's a circle, and I know the radius is 7. Now, another way I could have known it was 7 was to look at that equation And that number, x squared plus y squared equals a number, that's a perfect square. And the square root of it then is my radius. So the big question then is, what's the difference between these two? I'm so glad you asked. The difference is the shading. Okay, so if x squared plus y squared is less than 49, that means I shade inside the circle. And I'm going to do that with a pencil. Means any point inside of this circle makes this inequality true. Okay. Had it been greater than, and let me switch so where you can see it better. Had it been greater than, I would have shaded outside the circle. Okay. A little different, but I want you to see that that's really how we use that. Okay, let's do number 3 with Desmos, and I want you to see it. So I'm going to switch our view, and I want you to watch how I type this in. I'm going to do x is less than, equal to, and then Desmos converted it 5. I want you to see that Desmos drew a solid vertical line at 5, 0, and then shaded to the left. Okay, so it's at 5, 0. You got a vertical line. And again, I'm not doing precise graphing over here. I'm doing a sketch because I want you to see I want you to remember what it looked like when you come back to your graphing calculator. And then it's shaded over here to the left. Love that. Okay. Let's do one more. That's number 4. And again, I'm going to use Desmos. Let me clear this one out. We do x plus 4y is less than or equal to 8. And a key thing here again, and let me move our learning guide out of the way just a little bit. I want you to see that Desmos highlights these points for you. Don't miss that. That's a huge, big deal that Desmos actually identifies points for you. Even though on our graph, we're just doing a sketch, I want you to see that if you needed to graph this precisely with grid, you totally could, because you could get the points from Desmos, plot them, and then shade appropriately. And then notice that Desmos is shading over here, so we need to shade that way as well. So I hope that helps with some of the tools. Remember, you want to be using the technology to help you focus on the analysis part, okay? Knowing how to put it into the technology to get the response that you need, to get the details that you need, maybe those little points. That's the problem solving here. You want to use the technology appropriately. So I hope this helps. Friends, I will link the next and final part of the week 8 learning guide. If you have questions or comments, as always, feel free to leave them below. I would be glad to help. Bye for now.